Wow, Vikings. You did a really great job at beating the Giants yesterday by a field goal on Christmas Eve. Woo! We did it again, Vikings. We're 12-3 now. Let's see the stats for the Vikings. Kirk Cousins had 299 yards and 3 touchdowns and 34 carrying and 48 attempts. Dalvin Cook had 14 carrying and 64 yards. Alexander Madison had 4 carrying and 17 yards. Kirk Cousins only had 1 carrying and 2 yards on the rushing. Now to receiving. Justin Jefferson had 12 receiving and 133 yards and 1 touchdown. TJ Hawkinson had 13 receiving and 109 yards and 2 touchdowns. KJ Osborne had 3 receiving and 17 yards. Johnny Munt had 1 receiving and 16 yards. Dalvin Cook had 3 receiving and 13 yards. Adam Thielen had 1 receiving and 6 yards. CJ Ham had 1 receiving and 5 yards. And Duke Shelley and the defense, Duke Shelley had 9 tackles. Eric Hendricks had 7 tackles and 3 assists. Jordan Hicks had 5 tackles and 5 assists. Danielle Hunter had 5 tackles and 2 assists. Patrick Peterson had 4 tackles and 0 assists and 1 interception. Josh Meadows had 3 tackles and 1 assist. Chandon Sullivan had 2 tackles and 1 assist. Harrison Smith had 2 tackles and 1 assist. Cameron Bynum had 2 tackles and 1 assist. Dalvin Tomlinson had 1 tackle and 1 assist. Brian Ozama too had 1 tackle. Harrison Phillips had 1 tackle. Izzy Matubu had 1 tackle. Patrick Jones too had 1 assist. And Troy Dye had none. Chris Boyd had none. DJ Wondham had 1 assist. Shyrus Tonga had 1 assist. Zarius Smith had none. The kick returns, nobody didn't do the kick returns. Punt returns, Jalen Rigor had 1 return and 7 yards. And Greg Joseph had made 2 field goals in the kicking. Alright, now let's see the stats for the Giants. Daniel Jones had 334 yards and 1 touchdown and 1 interception. And Saquon Barkley had 1 touchdown and 84 yards and 14 carrying. Daniel Jones had 4 carrying and 34 yards. Matt Breida had 2 carrying and 9 yards. Gary Brightwell had 1 carrying and -1 yards. Now to receiving. Richie James had 8 receiving and 90 yards. Isaiah Hodgins had 8 receiving and 89 yards and 1 touchdown. Darius Slayton had 4 receiving and 79 yards. Saquon Barkley had 8 receiving and 49 yards. Daniel Bellinger had 2 receiving and 27 yards. Now the defense. Fabian Morale had 5 tackles and 3 assists. Dexter Lawrence had 5 tackles and 1 assist. Yvonne Thibodeaux had 4 tackles and 2 assists. And Darnay Holmes had 4 tackles and 2 assists. Jalen Smith had 3 tackles and 7 assists. Micah McFadden had 3 tackles and 5 assists. Julian Love had 3 tackles and 3 assists. Landon Collins had 3 tackles and 1 assist. Gian Ward had 3 tackles and 1 assist. Leonard Williams had 2 tackles and 2 assists. Jason Pinnock had 2 tackles and 1 assist. Nick McLeod had 2 tackles and 0 assists. Cordell Flott had 1 tackle and 3 assists. Aziz Ojari had 1 tackle and 1 assist. Tony Jefferson had 1 tackle and 0 assists. Andrew Thomas had none. Ryder Anderson had 2 assists. Marcus Johnson had none. And Jamarion Ellis had 1 assist. Now the kick returns. Gary Brightwell had 1 return and 26 yards. The punt returns. Richie James had 2 returns and 8 yards. And the kicking, Graham Gano made 3 field goals. The punting, Jamie Gillian had 129 yards. Now the stats. The Vikings had 333 total yards. The Giants only had 445 total yards. And now the passing yards. The Vikings only had 270 passing yards. The Giants only had 319 passing yards. Now the rushing yards. The Giants only had 126 rushing yards. And the Vikings only had 83 rushing yards. And now the yards per play. The Vikings only had 5.0 yards per play. The Giants only had 6.7 yards per play. So yeah, good for the Vikings. Now let's hope we beat the Green Bay Packers next Sunday, since the Packers won today. Darn it. Now we're 12-3 now. Yeah. Finally. Heck yeah. Yeah. We finally beat both New York teams. Finally. Yep. Let's just hope we beat the Packers next Sunday out in Wisconsin. That would be nice. Yeah.